Okay, welcome everybody. Happy Monday, October 26th. For those of you joining us virtually or online, we thank you for being with us. I believe we have one board member attending online, Mr. Jerry Robichaud. Hopefully you can hear us. And Drew, if you see something from him, please let us know. But otherwise, the screen we're seeing, we're not able to see him. But thank you. So with that, we'll do a call to order. Ms. Treadway, will you determine if we have a quorum present?
We do, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you for that. I'd look to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Marthaler. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was Jerry. I'm sorry, that was Jerry. We can hear him? Yep. Wonderful, thank you. Passes 6-0. That takes us to the next item, number 5, community comment. And Kathy, we didn't get any email requests. We don't have anybody in person here. Hi, Misty, thank you for joining us. So we will move on. Takes us to item number 6, recognition awards and presentations. And tonight we don't have any. There we go. Now we can see everybody. Thank you, Drew. Wonderful. Welcome everybody that we can now see. Thanks for joining us here. Thanks. Item number 7, the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler, a second by Ms. Treadway. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you for that. Next item is retirement. Number 8. And just bear with me here as I'm able to pull this stuff up. The first retirement here is for Miss Kareem Dimmick. 27 years of service here in the Faribault Public Schools. So that's a lengthy career, and we thank her for all of her efforts. Any board members want to say anything about Ms. Dimmick?
I certainly can. I mean, as a young, well, I wasn't that young when I had my twins, but as a first-time mom of twins in baby stock and working with BCFE, I just really appreciate Kareem's care. Love for my family, or making me feel part of the community, hooking me in first right away to Faribault Public Schools, and just really helping me learn how to juggle everything that was coming my way. So I can't, she's out there, but just gentle, kind, caring woman who really made me feel competent as a mom, a first-time mom. So I can't express enough gratitude for her years of service.
Wonderful, thank you, Courtney.
And I don't think I'm the only one, the only mom out there who's got this experience.
Any other comments? I would just like to thank Kareem for her professionalism and dedication over the years. I know she really brought the ECFE program along, and it was highly recognized in the community and very valued. So thank you, Kareem, and congratulations on your retirement. Okay, wonderful, thank you. This is an action item. Looking for a motion to approve item 8A, the retirement of Kareem Dimmick. So moved.
Okay.
I have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Cavalier. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next item is 8B, retirement of Sainab Sarfel of 7 years in the district. Once again, we'd like to thank Sainab for the commitment and the dedication to Faribault Public Schools and all the service. And other board members, would you like to have any comments? Okay.
Absolutely grateful for the support.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for item 8B, retirement of Sainab Sarfel.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler, a second by Ms. Treadway. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you for that. This brings us to item 9, finance. And we have there the minutes and the budget reports. And Mr. Adams, are you going to give us a report on that, or Mr. Sester?
Yeah, I think the one, certainly you can ask us questions, but the one thing to note, we're down about 39 students from where we were predicting from this year. And that's a trend throughout the Big 9 schools, a lot of schools around us. Otherwise, all the according to finance committee, all the finances were pretty much in order from where they were.
Okay. So that recap there is going to be for items B1 and B2 there?
Yeah.
Okay. Any board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Adams or Mr. Sesker regarding the enrollment report or the financial reports?
So fiscally, we're about where we expect to be, from what I read and analyzed and things like that.
And the audit is coming up pretty soon, hopefully by the 1st of December, we should have an audit ready to go, or we can take a look at. So, yeah, so those numbers are looking fine.
Mr. Sesker, when you say, we're down 39 students, and that's relatively comparable to other schools in the Big 9, is it simply pretty much trackable back to COVID type of stuff, or is there any other things that we should be aware of, or that other schools are looking into? Or?
No, it's 100%. That's what it is. It's the kids who aren't choosing distance learning, or maybe they're choosing distance learning, but they're doing it through a homeschool or online program. That's pretty much the same for all the schools in the area. Yeah, and we have a list of those. I can send those out to you guys, what that is. We did a Big 9 survey. I think Mankato's down 250 students. Floyd County's down 100 students. So it's pretty tough. We're hoping that we can get some legislation that has some no harm language within the formula. So,
Welcome, Mr. Ingram. This brings us to item 9B3, gifts and donations. This is the resolution 20-33. I need to make this a little bigger. You'll read it. Resolution 20-33, accepting gifts and donations. Number 1, Faribault for Kids, formerly Kiwanis, $500 towards Lincoln Elementary for school supplies for students that need them or other needs for students. Number 2, Salvation Army, Kathy Thielbart, headphones and earbuds for Faribault Public School students. Number 3, UCare, donation of 20 iPads, masks, hand sanitizer, toothbrushes, toothpaste, thermometers, plates, bowls, disinfecting wipes, lens wipes, with an estimated value of $10,000 for adult basic education. Number 4, Three Rivers Community Action, $25,000. The following supplies were purchased to support students and families that are in need and to ensure they have supplies for their distance learning days. 1,300 plus backpacks, pencils, highlighters, permanent markers, loose leaf paper, folders, notebooks, scissors, colored pencils, crayons, sensory toys for McKinley, snow pants and coats for McKinley, iPad microscopes for science department, and Mr. Peterson. So, wow, really, really huge thank you. A tremendous amount of gratitude to all these individuals and organizations that make up these, the people that make up these organizations. So, huge amounts of donated dollar amounts and items. So, thank you very much. This is a resolution So we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, and I would just add a thank you to all the staff. I believe you worked really hard to get the backpacks and the supplies to the students, so thank you.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Engbrecht. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Fred, will you please do a roll call?
John Bellingham,
Aye.
Courtney Cavalier,
Aye.
Jason Ingram,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jerry Robertson,
Aye.
Chad Wolf,
Aye.
Carolyn Treadway, aye. The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you for that. Brings us to item 9C1, flexible paraprofessional additions at Faribault Public Schools. This is an action item. Mr. Seska, would you like to give any input here or thoughts?
Yeah, sure. It's real simply hiring 3 substitute paraprofessionals for the district. We put that on our COVID dollars that we're receiving from the government to help support that. We are finding out that it's tough to find staff, so this would really help us out.
Thank you for that. These are all items that were approved and recommended by the Finance Committee a week ago this morning, or a week ago today. So, looking for a motion to approve item 9C1, flexible paraprofessional additions at Faribault Public Schools.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Treadway, a second by Ms. Cavalier. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is 9C2, contract for teacher of the physically and other, Thank you. I'm going to go back to that. Contract for teacher of the physically and other health, disability services, and visually impaired services. This is an action item, and Mr. Sesker, you want to talk about this?
I'll probably turn that one over to Mr. Gaynor. I see that he is online. So Rob, can you comment on that?
Yes, this is a contract that we renew every year. It's a budgeted item to provide services for students who have visual impairments and other disabilities.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Gaynor. We have a motion to approve this item. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bellingham, a second by Ms. Marthaler. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is 9C3, teacher and principal evaluation software.
And certainly you can ask questions of Tracy. She has led this charge to upgrade our software for teacher evaluation and principal evaluation that we'll be using this year. It's about a $3,000 increase from the software that we did, that we had previously, but this one offers quite a few more advantages for our staff to evaluate. So, that it.
Yeah,
If you have any questions for Tracy, what this is all about, feel free to ask.
I would like to ask a question if I may. Tracy, how is this program different than the one we're currently using for one that was in place?
That's a great question. So there's a couple pieces to it. Number one, we can personalize the components within Teach Point. And so that's actually our task right now as a leadership team, is to identify what do we want included in pre-observation, post-observation, how are we utilizing the Danielson framework to make sure that, again, we're aligned with our teacher preparation programs, as well as really empowering that teacher growth and development process. So one of the components that is different that our administrators are excited about is having a personalized walkthrough form. And so we know how comprehensive Danielson is, and that's a great tool for us, but when we want that just-in-time feedback, and we want those quick look-fors, it creates a platform where our high school can have look-fors that align to their site improvement plan. Our middle school can have different look-fors, and our elementary can have another look-fors of a walkthrough form. The other piece that TeachPoint gives us that our previous software did not is a house for all of our professional development tracking. And so that is a piece that's really beneficial to teachers as they are looking forward for licensure areas. So they don't have to go and say, hey, how am I doing? What do I need? It's just all within one platform. They click a button and the transcript, they can see where am I at, how many hours, what are the criteria that I may or may not have yet. And so we're really excited to have that in one spot where we know a lot of times teachers are pushing out to so many different tools. The other thing that this eliminates is the need for paper in any capacity. So everything from the pre-observation, post-observation, feedback, goal setting, self-assessment, all of those pieces are now housed in this platform.
And did you say that this TeachPoint even connects with the teacher ed programs, the higher institutions? So all the things they do there, I can't remember that big.
The NTPA?
NTPA, yes. I should recognize that. I have a hand in that, but not yet.
Yeah, and that was important to us, right? Because we want to make sure that our student teachers, our teacher candidates are moving into a system in which they've been practicing and understanding what the components are.
Great, good, thanks.
Tracy, just to verify, that's an annual?
That will be
annual?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So moving forward, the annual will be the 8,500.
Correct.
I have two quick questions, more out of curiosity than anything else. So when you said for the look-fors and the walkthroughs, are they on an iPad or somebody can be walking with them? And my second question is, how about transferring from the current software to TeachPoint in the middle of the year with everything going on for everybody?
So that's a really great question, and it's our goal and timeline is to have everything set up by Thanksgiving. And so any of our administrators who have already started their evaluation process are just using paper pencil, and then we'll be transitioning that into TeachPoint once we have it up and running.
And then you think that do teachers have to train in to learn how to do their own goal setting and everything in the software?
Yeah, so there's two pieces to that. Number one, the feedback so far has that this is way less clunky than our former system, so it really does have a nice user interface that's pretty easy to navigate. But in addition to that, knowing that we have pre-observation and those sit-downs, we have not only an opportunity for systematic professional learning, but kind of that one-on-one and coaching and support for anyone who's in a formal evaluation.
And TeachPoint talks to the ED software, what's it called, that we have here in the district?
Safe Schools?
Safe Schools.
It does.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. You're welcome.
Tracy, do we at all have to double pay this year for the one we're on? And
No, we were able to cancel that.
we were, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
great question.
Thank you.
Sorry, another question. Does this carry over to not just probationary staff, but non-probationary, continuing contract staff as well, when they have their yearly recycling?
Yeah, and so that's another piece to the personalized element to this platform, so we can have a, I can't remember the term they use, but they have it within the system in that you have your staff who may not have tenure yet, and then you have an opportunity to have another personalized form for those who are.
Other thing about TeachPoint, you can set up all your evaluations for your non-teaching employees as well.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Okay, so we can decide how far we want to extend that evaluation tool, but it is available to us at the cost.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions? Let me just ask real quick. Mr. Robichaud and everybody online, can you guys, ladies and everybody, can you hear us okay? Yes. Okay, perfect. Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions for Tracy on this side? Okay. So, I will entertain a motion to approve item 9C3, the teacher and principal evaluation software.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Martell and a second by Mr. Engelbrecht. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is 9C4, the 2020-2021 Youth Liaisons Agreement. Mr. Sesker.
Yeah, these are our two police liaisons, sorry, and they're asking for a 3%, wasn't it? Yeah, 3% increase in the rates.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve the 2020-2021 Youth Liaisons Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Robichaud, a second by Ms. Marthaler. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Sesker. So in the last few months, with a lot of the racial tensions going around the country, the presence of police in schools has been an issue that has come to the front as a tool that has not always been racially equitable. Have there been discussions within Faribault about how that's perceived, how that's used, and whether or not we should have concerns about the presence of police in our schools?
Okay, we haven't really had a discussion with it per se. I do know that our liaison officers have a great relationship with the kids, and that's made a big impact. I think also with the smaller school, you can build some of those relationships, and you actually can see the person who's the police officer. It is a good question, though, and I think that moving forward, I'll talk to Jamie and Mike to see if we can start some of those conversations. I think it would be good, especially with some of our racial diversity teams that we have that we've built. So, yeah, it's a good question, Jason. But I haven't had any sort of resistance. I haven't had anybody call me with concerns or anything like that. Quite frankly, we've had only positive conversations and interactions with our liaisons. But it doesn't mean that we can't be proactive and make sure that that system is still working.
Yeah, thank you. I think as I've been reading about it, it strikes me as something that is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. I can see it being challenged in some places, but not being a positive in others. But I think what I would encourage is exactly what you just suggested, which is that a conversation is probably warranted to make sure that we feel comfortable, that our students feel comfortable with the role that police liaisons are playing within our schools, and that we don't operate under the assumption that everybody's comfortable with it. One thing I hope we are all learning over the last few months in particular is that, particularly those of us who come from white backgrounds and our perceptions of what everybody is comfortable with can be very different than what others perceive. And by not asking questions, we might be glossing over challenges. So I'm supportive of this evening, and I'll be voting for it, but I would really strongly encourage us to have the conversations and to invite all the members of our community to be a part of those conversations, so that when we talk about having police in our schools, we're very intentional and we understand everybody's perspective on it, not simply our own.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for bringing that up. I would love to hear back. Maybe hear a little bit more about, I've visited the schools obviously and seen the liaisons in action, but I would love to hear a report at some point about what the day looks like, and especially now, it's probably different this year than it has been in other years, with less kids in the building on any one given day. But
We will, and I'm sure that Anne Marie, yeah, she's on there. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to maybe advocate for having a community school program for some of those meetings with our community members and our students with our officers. And I'm sure that Andy would be more than happy to come down, or Sheriff Dunn would be more than happy to come down with that. So thank you for that. That's a great suggestion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is item 9C, C5, the LED project for Faribault Middle School and Faribault High School. Mr. Sesker. No, Kane is Kane on?
Kane is on, yeah, so feel free to ask Kane. This is his expertise.
Would you like, Kane, are you able to join us and give a little more background on this? I know we spoke about the high school project, I believe last month, and we approved it, and so this is the middle school and a small little addition, I believe, if you will.
Yeah, so very similar to the high school project. You know, the rebates will pay for a portion of it. Our energy savings would pretty much make our monthly payments on our lease. I think it's like $60 extra that I will absorb in our buildings and grounds budget with the maintenance savings. So, yeah, so it's very similar to the high school.
Okay, thank you, Kane, for that. Any follow-up questions for Kane?
Just one comment, a big thank you to Kane for doing this research. We also know that it does affect the classrooms, particularly with some of our special needs kids, and it does affect that life, not only them, but it also is effective for staff too. When you have those flashing fluorescent bulbs, that can be pretty, my mask is on, so I'm losing my words, right? It's pretty stressful as you go through that process. So I know that staff and students will appreciate it, not just because of the savings, but also because of the educational value.
For sure.
Thank you for that, and Kane, as Mr. Sesker said, thank you for your leadership on this item. I'll entertain a motion to approve the LED project for Faribault Middle School and Faribault High School.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Ingbrecht, a second by Mr. Bellingham. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for all of that. Next item is the number 10, the policy committee. And 10A is the following policies presented for the first reading, which is policy 419, the tobacco-free environment.
Yep, and that, the only piece for that is it adds the vapes and it also updates the statutes, I believe, right, John? And Carol?
What's big?
Yes, yes,
It's big.
yes, so thank you.
And that is the first reading, so we will bring it back a month from now and actually vote on it then, correct?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. That's just a report. The next item is 10B, which is consider approval to rescind the following policies, excuse me. There's several of them here. Policy 106, data request policy for public data. Policy 1000.0, statement of guiding principles. Policy 1002.1, citizens advisory committees, organization and dissolution. Policy 1002.2, citizens advisory committees, membership and appointment. Policy 1003.3, complaints concerning school personnel. Policy 1005.1, public performance by students. Policy 1005.3, sales promotion. Policy 1005.4, site-based shared decision-making with procedures. So I think what we'll do, we'll take all those in one action and as an action to rescind them. Mr. Bellingham or Ms. Treadway, Mr. Sesker, would you like to speak to the rescinding of these policies at all?
They are no longer applicable, and so the policy committee is going through and weaning out those that no longer are needed, either because they're embedded in another policy or they're just outdated.
Continue to be so impressed that you stay focused on this task.
That would be Mr. Bellingham.
No, that would be Zavarol. Yes, I'll give her the credit. She's the one that's keeps prodding everybody, keep marking, saying, get those policies.
Wondering if it's ready to go with
Ah,
my,
yes,
clutter.
Ms. Cavalier, I did ask a question the other day, how many policies do we actually have on the book?
And?
And
303?
going down.
Yep, minus 1, 2, 3.
We're down to twos.
That's awesome.
So, wonderful, thank you for your efforts on this, and Ms. Zavro as well, so thank you.
Mr. Chair, did you ask how many we need?
I did, I said, I can't believe we don't have a policy to unlock the door. But, you know, it is what it is. All right, we'll entertain a motion to, approve the rescinding of those policies.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Engelbrecht, a second by Ms. Cavalier. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Once again, thank you. Item number 11,
Mr.
distance.
Chair.
I'm sorry.
If I may, continuing on the policies in here, but I did check with MSBA, Terry Morrow at MSBA, asking for clarification about when can we do a first reading and a second reading? We brought that question up before. Can we do the first reading at a work session and the second reading at that same month at the regular board meeting, the business meeting, and then have action on it? And he said yes, and actually we have it in our policy. So it's either policy 203 or 208, I can't remember, that we may do that. So I don't know how we structure this. If we just say this is what we're going to do from now on.
Or even faster now.
First readings, as per policy, first readings here will be, our procedure now will be, first readings will be at work sessions, second readings, and action will be at the business meeting there. So.
Yep, the only thing that we have to add to that is that we have to allow for community comment on the work session. So Kathy and I we have a system to do for that.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Next item is number 11, distance learning update. Tracy.
Hey, everybody. So I just want to take a minute and honor that we have 2 weeks left in first quarter. Woo! I think that really is really big celebration. Mr. Benke, I don't know if he's on or not. Oh, he is, darn. He lost a bet to me because he thought we would have had to transition before this. And I believe I said we were going to make it through first quarter. But I just think that is worth pausing and celebrating because we could not have done that without the thoughtful planning of our leadership teams, without our teachers really committed to empowering our kids to, follow the health and safety measures and to really set the tone for this year to be able to get as far as we possibly can without having to pivot. So I think while we know this continues to be a marathon and we're not done, we are most certainly taking all of those small celebrations and moving forward with that. One of the things that has been going really well, I would say across the board, is really understanding where are our kids at, and what we're identifying is we're kind of finding this, almost the gap widening. And I don't mean academic gap. I mean, you have families and students and staff who are doing really, really well and thriving in this environment. And then you have family, staff, and students who may not be. And we're not finding as much of the middle ground anymore. It's almost created more of this kind of dynamic. And so I'm really grateful I had an opportunity to meet with our teaching and learning team across the district today. And one of the ways that we are wanting to support staff is on our November 9th curriculum day. And so we've identified that our asynchronous learning is pretty strong. We know how to get the content online. We know, what we can let go of, what we maybe don't want to let go of or shouldn't let go of. But what we have the opportunity to grow in is our synchronous learning. So how do we engage students collaboratively with their peers? How do we create those in-person opportunities when they may only have half as many kids in their classroom? And so we know what our next steps are, is really to continue around engagement, continue to use data to help us understand how are our kids doing. And so when we have kids who are not engaging when they're at home, what are our ways to reach out to the student? What are our ways to reach out to the family? And so that's really where it has been a community effort, and we're really grateful for our teachers going over and above. Our family literacy specialists are doing a lot of work to engage with our communities. Next week, they have a digital citizenship event that they're partnering with community school, and so that's going to be something to help our families see your students are digital citizens, whether or not we maintain distance learning, whether or not, we have to pivot completely to distance learning, or when we get to go back in person. And so there's a lot of pieces that have been part of this work. And I said this in a lot of our teaching and learning teams and with cabinet and our leaders of COVID's the disruptor. And so I think we're really starting to get to that point of how are we really letting go of the things that are no longer working for our teachers, for our students, and for our families, but then also making sure that we have a system to support everyone's success. And so that's where, we are trying to be as proactive as possible. But like I said, we are identifying that gap. And so we're really trying to identify what are the non-negotiables for everyone's success. How do we have multiple systems in place and multiple structures in place to support our students, family, and staff? And then on the flip of it, for those that this is going really well, how do we keep allowing them to innovate? How do we keep supporting them? And then ask them to share what's going well and why is it going well. So I am grateful that while I will say it's been a little interesting as the numbers go up, I don't go into buildings as much anymore, right? And trying to be part of the mitigating and not adding to it. But what I will say is what I'm hearing, and I even have some pictures shared with me, students are collaborating. They're not just sitting in desks anymore, where I know at the initial phases, it was those rules, those new routines and expectations, and everybody was a little scared to move out of their desk. And so now you can see that comfort level is starting to come back. And so we're practicing social distancing partnerships or social distancing small groups. And so what does that really mean for our students to make sure that they're getting what they need, but yet we're still creating that safe learning environment?
I think if I could just interject a little bit too, one of the things that Tracy really set up at the beginning of the year was the high expectations for our students, and especially with our distance learning students. So I attested that today. I visited with some of the distance learning teachers. Without even saying it, the 3 distance learning teachers I was talking to said they were so appreciative of the high standards that we came in with to begin with for distance learning teachers, that has really, really helped them set that bar higher too. So I do think that we are setting the bar higher. We still have work to do. There's no doubt about it. We do have a group of students that we are really trying to figure out how to reach, and we will continue to work on that very, very hard. But with the work that we set ahead of time, I think that we got off to a very, very good start. So I'm not going to make it all rosy, because we do have some things that we need to figure out, but for the most part, our staff is really, really working hard and doing a good job. I asked them too, how are you moving academically for our distance learning teachers? Because compared to last year was pretty tough. And they say, they collaborate with their in-person teachers, and especially our first grade sections, they're saying that they are, they're doing quite well actually with their distance learning kids. The big difference, of course, is that this year we asked parents to choose. You're going to be a distance learner, or you're going to be an in-person, which one do you want? And by having that, the parents kind of already told themselves or told us that they're going to be willing to work and do a little bit a better job than we did last year. So I would say it's worked out as well as things can work out pandemic, right? But it's worked out pretty well.
Wonderful, thank you for that.
Well, and I don't know if there are any parents listening, but the idea of helping pair elementary students on Wednesdays, could you speak to that as a strategy for the future?
Absolutely. So this week we are starting our Wednesdays learning from home for our elementary students. And so that will follow the distance learning model that we have in place for our distance learning students who selected, the families that selected that. The intention around that is, should we need to pivot to full-time distance learning, now we've kind of, the academic word of scaffolded, right? So we're practicing with our students and families, this is what it could look like if we have to move to full-time distance learning. So we have had the opportunity to have our students almost the entire first semester. And so our students are comfortable with their iPads, they're comfortable logging in, but for some reason, in their little brains, that shifts when they go home and I forget it all. So that's really the intent of Wednesdays from our students and families to really be able to practice that. But then in addition to that, for our teachers, to continue to build those relationships with families, for teachers to continue to understand what might this look like in a distance learning model, and again, create that proactive measure so we're not reactive like we were forced to be. Thank you, Carolina.
I am curious, is there a better attendance by our distance learners than we had last spring?
Yes, in a very big way. So I would say, I actually just pulled the in-person data and we're at about 85% daily attendance rate. And so that I thought was a really strong number for us. In addition to our elementary distance learners, I don't have the data for middle or high school. I don't know if Mike and Jamie would have that, but I know for elementary, we are at between 90 to 100% attendance rate for our distance learners. So it makes me kind of reflect on the power of choice, right? So.
And I will tell you that your distance learning numbers at the middle school and high school are probably skewed low, because I have a middle schooler and 2 high schoolers, and 2 out of my 3, for the life of me, can't figure out how to check in every single day because there's 2 systems and they don't talk to each other. And when they're doing homework, it doesn't automatically say that they're checked in. They have to go into a separate system. And I can pull my hair out saying, can you just not go check in? So I don't have to get this robocall that you missed school again today. And so from what I hear from other parents, they say, yeah, we get it too. So apparently I'm not the only parent out there, but it's, whatever your number is, I'm gonna guess it's skewed artificially low. I bet you actually have better distance learning attendance than that.
Yeah, that's good feedback though too, because the Infinite Campus blended learning model that we're using does require the student to go into the portal, check the box, hey, I'm here, but yet all of their work is in Schoology. So I think that's great feedback. And
so they're telling the truth.
They are telling the truth. They do have to go into 2 places. So, hey, that's good. They're not being truthful, Chad.
I have a
Go ahead.
question. And this is probably just not a Faribault question, but are we talking about what we're going to do for those kids that just aren't making it? If it's going to look like a 504 plan or some type of remediation going forward beyond what the teachers can do?
Yeah, I would really lean on our student support teams, because they are working at the building level to really identify who are the students that are struggling, that we just are falling through the cracks, more so than just struggling, right? And so that's where we have really strong teams at all of our sites that are able to then say, here's a family that needs additional support. How do we support them, whether that's through our administrators, our teachers, our counselors, our social workers, our liaisons, our family literacy specialists, and that's where I'm super grateful because of the services we have available in our district. But I think that's really where the power of the building comes into play, and that those student support teams, they're starting to identify, who are those families that might need more support, who are the students that might need more support, and why.
So an example of that is that one of the teachers have already reached out and asked for some of those supports. So tomorrow, Sam and the family literacy coaches, and they'll draw other people in as we go along. These are families that we're just having a hard time not only getting them online, but just getting them home and making sure that those kids are available to be online. And so they're going to strategize together with this single classroom teacher to reach those. I think she's got about 8 or 9 students that she is having a really tough time with. And she's doing a great job teaching. It's just
Beyond what
it's beyond what they can
teachers
do.
right?
And then if we need to call social services and things like that, we'll come up with plans and utilize all of them. But there are a lot of layers that we're really offering for teachers to reach this time.
Thank you.
Other questions, board members?
Thanks for the update. I do like hearing every time we're here.
Mr. Robichaud, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, I do have a couple for you. How has it gone for the elementary school classes when they've had to quarantine and pivot from in-classroom to 2 weeks at home and then coming back? How has that transition gone?
We have had really successful pockets, and we've had really good opportunities for us to reflect and think about how we can do it better. Where we're finding the success is when you have a really strong collaborative team, and we have that alignment. And so it was just, I'm thinking of an example at Lincoln where it was just this seamless transition. And so the kids knew how to transition to online, the teachers were able to support one another, get materials online, and they didn't skip a beat. And so I think obviously the first time it happened, it was a little clunky, but yeah, I think we figured out the system and really what's required. And that again goes back to collaboration. It really goes back to that alignment and making sure that we're supporting one another in that process. So I've been quite pleased with that, as much as we try to keep it at a minimum.
And how about the iPads for all elementary students? How's that going?
Great. They are, yeah, so every student has their device. They have started going back and forth home to school, and we are having some great success with that and allowing students access at home, but also, again, in the situation in which they are not able to return, they're already prepared. In addition, this first quarter was really teaching them, how do I use an iPad? How do I get into all of these tools? And now I have some ownership, right? Because this is quote unquote my device. So that's been pretty powerful for our students to join that one-to-one initiative.
Thank you, appreciate it. And then Todd, just my last question to you is, you said not everything's rosy, which we totally get, right? But those pain points, is there anything that the board can help with those pain points? And you talk about being in alignment and collaboration stuff. And, hopefully, if there is anything where you feel that the board can make a difference, whether that's approving something or examining something or, helping support a shift of something, whatever, hopefully you'll let us know and we can tackle whatever it is together.
Yeah, just one real simple piece. I know you're all busy, but if you can show up in your buildings a couple of times, I know that the teachers really appreciate that. So that's one huge piece of support for each other.
Okay.
I do have another question.
Absolutely.
The guidelines from the state indicate that when we get certain numbers, that there is a suggestion that we go to a different learning model. Our numbers in the community have risen in the last couple weeks. And yet, can you speak, when you and I talked the other day, you said there was some positive news around positivity rates on testing, and that comes into play as well in making the determination. So could you speak to that?
Yeah. So when the incident command center gets together, we just don't look at one set of data. The data that's out there is sort of the guidelines. And I know Governor Walt's never meant it to be the way to make a decision. It's just a guideline, and we take other pieces of data for that. It's broken up into 10, 20, and 30. I think our COVID positive case rate right now is about 26, 24, 26 right around there. But the other piece that people sometimes don't look at is the positivity rate. And we want to stay under a 5% threshold. And the reason why a lot of times that's used more often than the actual numbers is because the number of people that you test can really have an influence on the number of positive cases. So last couple of weeks, Northfield and Faribault did a really great job of testing, and you want more testing out there. And so they use this positivity rate to check that out. If you listen to the news, you heard that some of the states were up to 55% positivity rate, 55 in some areas. And for us, we're at 3.6% right now. So even though the number of positive cases have increased, again, because of the more testing, our positivity rate has stayed relatively the same.
So that's good news.
That's good news for us. Yeah, for the most part, it's pretty good news. So again, we're always concerned, right, about making sure people wear masks and they social distance. We want to have zero. So if everybody wore a mask every single day while they're out there and only took it off when they're in their own private little area, then we'd be much better off, to tell you quite frankly. But we do look at that data to make those decisions. And also our public health people, again, I recognized them last time. I would recognize them again. Both Sarah and Lindsay just do an outstanding job. And they're very, very informative. They have a connection with that epidemiologist in Rochester for our Southeast Regional Co-op piece. And they help us also make decisions because they also understand what the other side is to this too, right? It's not just about COVID, but there's a lot of mental health. We want kids back in school. There's a lot of different variables that we have to measure. And so for the most part, I think that command team has really given us some pretty good guidance, and I'm looking forward to it again on Wednesday. And we'll look at the numbers again, quite frankly, too. We'll see what we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it.
And thank you for your Faribault Daily News column. It was very excellent. Thanks. Thank you very much.
That takes us to item 12A, consider approval of employment agreement for Director of Educational Technology and Innovation. Mr. Sesker.
Yeah, and Mr. Rutherford is on line. He's right next to Mr. Robichaud over there. He's right in the middle, top middle. So you can certainly say hello to Casey. I'm sure if you asked him to say a few words, he'd be more than happy to say something. So sorry, Casey, to put you on the spot.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to speak up. I'm very happy to be coming back to Faribault. And I say back to Faribault because I have some pretty deep roots here. My Aunt Laurel taught at Lincoln for 31 years. And so I spent a lot of time in Faribault as a child. I do hope that you don't judge me based on my cousin's behavior in the schools. As long as we can get past that, then I think we'll be okay. But I went to St. Olaf. I was actually one of Jason's students his first year there. And so I'll ask that if he doesn't judge me, then I won't judge him. And from there, I went on to teach physics and math for about 15 years. During that time, I was also a digital learning coach. I've been an instructional coach most recently. And I am all about student learning and getting students really diving in and thinking deeply. I was listening to folks talk about the high expectations piece, and that is just so important and something that I'm really excited to be working with you all on. The notion of keeping high expectations for kids and really helping them to meet those expectations. So I'm really excited to help everybody out with the technology aspect of making sure that we're learning to the best of our ability in everything that we do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Board members, any comments there?
Well, I'll just say I remember very vividly that first semester teaching at St. Olaf and meeting Casey for the first time. He's got a very famous physics name, Rutherford, which maybe nobody else in the room recognizes except for Casey and I, but that's okay. He was an outstanding student then. I loved having him since he left St. Olaf. He's just been dedicated to education and student learning ever since then. When Joe Sage first joined the district and he and I met for the first time, a huge part of our conversation was we both knew Casey Rutherford, and we were excited to talk about him. So I'm thrilled he's back. It feels wonderful to have him here, and I'll think about what my vote's going to be here in just a minute.
It might be the deciding one, you never know.
So let's vote on this.
Okay. With that, thank you, Casey, for those words, and welcome back to Faribault. We'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Engbright, a second by Ms. Treadway. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Casey, officially welcome.
Thank you much.
That brings us to the next item on here, item 12B, consider approval to schedule a special school board work session for Monday, November 9th at 5:30 to review the school board self-evaluation. If you remember, I believe in the email I sent out, this will be virtual. Gail Gilman, who will be leading it from MSBA, is not allowed to travel. And so I think it's just better interaction if we all do it virtual instead of all of us sit here and one person on the screen. So it'll be virtual, and we will hopefully have our new school board members with us as well. If you remember, we'll invite them, and we have invited them in the meetings that Mr. Bellingham and myself and Mr. Sesker had with them. We did ask all of them to reserve that date should they win, and invite them to be, part of that conversation with us. So this is an action item. I'm looking for an approval to, or a motion to approve this, adding this special school board work session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler, a second by Ms. Cavalier. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. The next item is item 12C, consider approval to schedule a special board meeting on November 13th, 2020, time to be determined, to canvass returns of school district election. And I think when we make this motion, let's figure out a time that works on that day. So the 13th is what day on the calendar? Friday. A Friday. Board members, what does your Friday look like? Does 8 o'clock work for everybody, or is that too early? Or do we have any time requirements? We can set it whatever we want. Would it 8 o'clock work? I'm going to guess it's going to be awfully short and awfully sweet. Yeah? Mr. Robichaud, 8 o'clock work for you?
Yes, that's AM, right?
8 a.m., correct. Yep.
That works for me, thank you.
Okay, I'm not hearing anybody opposed to 8 o'clock that morning. Okay? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the scheduling of a special school board meeting on November 13th, 2020 at 8 a.m. to canvass returns of school district election. So moved. I'm sorry, Mr. Milliam with a motion, Ms. Cavalier with a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Use in person or is
No, it does have to be in person? No. Why don't we make it virtual?
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll make that virtual. Mr. Bellingham, was that part of your motion, or we need to,
Again,
yeah? Yes. Okay, we'll make that virtual. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So just to recap, item B and C, both of those will be virtual. The next item is 12D, consider approval of resolution 20-34, establishing combined polling places for multiple precincts and designating hours during which the polling places will remain open for voting for school district elections not held on the day of a statewide, I think that should be statewide. Yeah. Election 2020. Mr. Sesker, this is pretty self-explanatory, or is there anything you'd like to?
no, it's pretty standard. Yeah.
So moved.
Okay.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler, a second by Ms. Treadway. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Ms. Treadway, will you please do a roll call?
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Courtney Cavalier. Aye. Jason Incorrect.
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler.
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud.
Aye.
Chad Bull.
Aye.
Carolyn Treadway, aye. The motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you for that. Item 12E, consider approval of athletics participation agreement with Canyon River STEM School. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Marthaler, a second by Ms. Treadway. Any further discussion on this item? I thought I heard something, so.
You did.
Yeah, I did, okay. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is 13A, other items of information, school board members. Please feel free to speak freely. Whoa, pretty quiet. Nobody had anything they want to say or add? Sorry, I'm getting this really high-pitched tone. Okay, I will just add a couple things. This past month, we picked up in Ms. Marthaler and I and a group of 12 or so other individuals participated in our monthly mental health meeting. Katie Ryberg was leading it, and she switched jobs, so very graciously, Lindsay Reese and Mallory Fuchs and Shane Ressler all decided to come together and continue to push that ball forward. So really, really kind of them and gracious of them, and it's a great meeting that we have once a month to share ideas and things of that. So.
I would say it's a good thing that it's going to run with the wellness committee. I think that input in trying to do the work with that will be really helpful.
And then just a big thank you to all the district staff and those, you know, in the classrooms every day, in the hallways every day, in the buildings every day, doing the distance learning, to the whole team and to the ICT team. I know you all have a lot on your plate, and just we appreciate all your efforts and work that continues to go into all this stuff. So, and then last but not least, just good luck to all the candidates next week. Hopefully everything goes well, and best wishes to all of you. So, with that, Mr. Sesker, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so you did forget one thing, the highway cleanup. Yeah,
Oh,
Matt,
right.
Matt Steigen arranges that all the time, and so.
I want to say that for you.
Oh, yeah. So we had a bunch of folks go out there and help clean the highway over, I can't remember what the number of that road is that goes.
29?
Yeah, 29, thank you. So thank you for that. So I've had PC, PDS, and MASA. You talk about education, all our acronyms that we have out there, it's just crazy. And so we had a good PE meeting, that's rolling again, John, so I'll just give you the date for our next meeting is November 10th, just so you have that. DEEP is our education foundation, basically. They've set aside, I think they have $25,000 in their budget, and we have 4 grants already from teachers that we're going to look at and hopefully approve. And then the umbrella piece of that is FAPSETA. That's a big scholarship debate. Actually, Jerry's the chair on that this year too. So it's a great organization and doing a great job. C meeting, our schools for equity and education, which we're all a part of. That's our lobbying group, and they gave us some legislative update. They tried to look in their crystal ball, but sometimes that crystal ball is a little fuzzy, especially this year. We do know that there is going to be a deficit next spring. We don't know. Some of the comments I received from that meeting and also my region meeting was that it may not be as bad as what people are projecting, but it's still going to be pretty bad. But they'll have more of those in February and March as we move forward through this legislative session of what those projections are going to be for the state's revenue and expenditures. I also work with our partners at Mankato. It's a group of 10 schools that are around the Mankato area, also Centennial's in there. And we continue to talk about new and innovative program. That's the entity where Avid started for us a long time ago. and we continue to do some great things. We've shifted our focus to racial equity now, and so that's been part of our program in trying to get everybody on the same page with our racial equity plans that we've got. The MASA fall training for superintendents was last week, and like I said, that was mainly legislative updates and predictions of elections. Our Big Nine Soups meet every 2 weeks. The off weeks in, we meet with the county and talk about the numbers and how that was all going. And you can imagine our superintendent meetings are pretty much consumed by the same thing. All the schools in the area in our Big Nine conference they're doing great. They're doing the best they can given the circumstances that they have. And the numbers they fluctuate all over the place. So, but they're all working really hard. And finally, I want to congratulate Joey Erickson and Gabby Yetzer for homecoming king and queen this year. Two great representatives for our school. And I actually went to the football game last Friday, and the king came out with, I thought, fairly warm clothes, but the queen and her court came out with dresses, and that was about it. And they were freezing, it looked like at that time, but they made it through. They were recognized at halftime, and they did a great job. But thanks to Keith Badger and Jamie and everybody at that high school that did that. Did you guys get a chance to see the coronation too online? Just a terrific job. It was all pretty much, it was based on COVID, of course, so not very many people in the audience, but they streamed it and did a nice job. So we made it through homecoming week. Well, not so much me, the high school did. So
they did their best to make it as fun as possible. I did watch the hot wings.
Oh yeah, the hot wings video was good.
That was fun.
That was good. So kudos to those guys. And that is all I have.
Wonderful thing. And I know that we've shifted the student representative report to the work session, but just Kaylee and Allie, thank you for joining us, even though you don't have a report tonight. But if either of you want to say a word or two, feel free to. We just want to thank you for joining us.
No problem. I don't have anything. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. It's always a good time during these meetings because we just get an insight on what's happening in our community, in our school district. Homecoming was pretty interesting, I have to say. Yeah, we did the best with what we had. It was fun.
Yeah, since you mentioned homecoming, Allie and I both, we took yearbook photos at homecoming, so we kind of got like a close look at it. So we were at more of an advantage. People, it was pretty good. We were actually senior homecoming, so it was just
Okay, well, thank you. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulty breaking up there, but we appreciate your thoughts and words and joining us tonight. So this brings us to item 14, dates to remember. This is information only. 14A, Monday, November 2nd, 2020, 5:30 p.m. is the work session. Thursday, November 5th, 2023, 30 p.m. the policy meeting. Monday, November 9th, 2020, 7:30 a.m. is the finance meeting. Monday, November 9th, 2020, 5:30 p.m. is the special work session. Wow, we're gonna have fun that day. Friday, November 13th, 2020, now at 8 a.m. It's a special board meeting. I will just reiterate that the 9th and the 13th, those two meetings are virtual. And last on here is Monday, November 23rd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. is our regular board meeting. So that pretty much concludes our open part of this meeting. We will now look to adjourn into a closed session.
I'll move to go into closed session to discuss negotiations.
Second.
Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Let's take a 5-minute break, and I believe we will disconnect everybody but Mr. Robichaud. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we will reconvene at 6:45. Thank you.
Thank you.